Hi ma'am, welcome po.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. LinkedIn, LinkedIn info. Thank you again. So, good evening po sa inyong lahat. It's 5 p.m. here in the Philippines. So, as I was introduced, I was in the energy sector for already 30 years now. So, nag-umpisa po ako in 1991 as an environment specialist at the National Power Corporation. So, at that time, ginagawa namin yung mga environmental impact assessments ng Macban at saka Bacon, Manito na geothermal power plants back then. And then nung 2001, naghiwalay na po yung generation na function ng National Power Corporation from its transmission function. So nalipat kami sa transmission function, nalipat kami ako sa National Transmission Corporation. So hindi na namin hawak yung power generation. Pero dahil may mga electrical substation sa mga geothermal power plants, involved pa rin kami sa environmental and safety management ng mga electrical substations ng mga power plants, which is the National Transmission Corporation na po ang umahawak. Then in 2009, na-privatize naman yung planning and operations ng National Transmission Corporation. Napunta kami sa National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. So presently, I am with the Quality, Safety and Environment Department of the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines. So we're still managing the safety and environmental management of our transmission facilities near geothermal power plants or near geothermal power or geothermal fields. Okay, I understand meron po ditong mga tiga geothermal power plants and geothermal fields. Yung si Sir kanina. Hello.
Si Mr. Marvin po ata yun.
Yes,
Oo. Oo. Sir, safety officer po kayo dyan?
Yes po ma'am, safety officer po ako. Under po ako ng Disco Incorporated, general construction ng geothermal, PGPC.
Okay. So parang kayo, nasa construction contractor kayo ng Philippine Geothermal. Parang kinontract out ng construction group ng Philippine Geothermal. Anyway. Okay. So our topic for today is geothermal energy as a renewable energy source, its environmental and safety management in the Philippines. So ito po yung magiging outline ng discussions natin. What is geothermal energy, and then global geothermal energy potential, Philippine geothermal energy potential, Republic Act 9513, the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, the Philippine Energy Mix, the Department of Energy's geothermal outlook, geothermal energy in the context of sustainable development, environmental benefits and challenges associated with geothermal power generation, and safety management of geothermal facilities. Okay, what is geothermal energy? So it is basically yung heat energy na nanggagaling sa Earth's core. So this is the composition of the Earth. So merong inner core, merong outer core. the mantle and the crust. Okay, so dito sa inner core, merong molten magma. So palaging mainit, and when we say molten magma, parang siya, yung parang liquefied substance na mainit. Ang temperature dito is actually kasing init ng surface of the sun, or temperature of the surface of the sun, mga 5,000 degrees Celsius. Okay. So before, as you know, the Pangea theory, nung araw daw, about 200 mega-annum ago, ang mga continent sa Earth is magkakaduktong, or parang isang landmass lang lahat ng continent sa buong mundo. Diba? Meron tayong iba't ibang continent, American continent, African continent, Australia, etc. Pero ang theory is, dahil may molten magma sa gitna ng Earth or at the Earth's core, parang palagi siyang kumukulo, di ba? Palagi siyang kumukulo. So dumating yung time na naghiwa-hiwalay yung isang buong landmass. So doon na-create yung iba't ibang continents. Okay. So because of the continuous movement of the molten magma at the Earth's core, through time, naghiwa-hiwalay yung isang landmass dati, naghiwa-hiwalay siya. So kaya na-create yung mga iba't ibang plates, African plate, American plate, Pacific plate, Indian Australian plate. Ayan, so nagkaroon ng iba't ibang plate. And then through time also, yung mga plates na ito, nagbabanggaan siya, either nagko-collide or pumapailalim sa bawat isa. Kaya nagkakaroon ng fissure or leak yung Earth's surface. And then merong sa hydrologic cycle naman, di ba, kung merong rainfall, nagpa-percolate siya sa lupa, merong certain distance sa Earth's core to Earth's crust na nagpa-percolate yung tubig. And then merong depth din na naaabot ng molten magma yung water na yon, or pwedeng water sa mga water table or water sa mga aquifer. And then sa kaka-collide and subduct ng mga plates na na-form because of the continuous melting of the magma at the Earth's core, nagkakaroon ng fissures at saka leaks. So yung fissures and leaks na yon, actually yun yung location ng mga active volcanoes natin. So from this figure, yung triangle, ito yung geothermal fields producing electricity. Pero at the same time, actually location din niya ng mga active volcanoes today. So yung mga active volcanoes naman na form dahil nagkaroon ng vent or nagkaroon ng butas or fissure sa Earth's surface dahil sa kaka-collide at kaka-subduct ng mga plates dahil sa continuous melting ng magma sa Earth's core. So yung anong tawag dito? Itong icon number 2, ito yung tinatawag na mid-oceanic ridges crossed by transforms faults, long transversal fractures. Or in other words, result na ito nga ng collision and subduction ng mga plates na na-form. And ito namang icon number 3, these are subduction zones where the subducting plate bends towards and melts in the asthenosphere. So in other words, Maaaring nandito yung mga geothermal sources kasi ito yung mga fissures and leaks and vents sa kakamove na mga plates sa earth. Okay, so isang example is yung Pacific Ring of Fire, isang example na palatandaan kung saan merong geothermal energy sources, yung Pacific Ring of Fire. So yung mga triangle the block is or are actually location of active volcanoes. So ibig sabihin dyan sa lugar na yun, may mga fissures, may mga vents na maaaring merong geothermal energy sources. Okay, this figure naman is global surface heat flow with plate boundaries and volcanoes. So yung mga surface sa Earth na mas mainit is usually nandun din sa boundary ng mga plates na na-form because of continuous movement of the magma at the Earth's core. And yung mga triangles, nagko-coincide din dun sa boundary ng mga plates na nag-collide or nag-subduct. Okay. So isang indication din yan ng kung saan ang geothermal resources. This figure naman is a schematic representation of an ideal geothermal system. So ito yung molten magma, and then these are impermeable rock, and ito yung recharging ng water dun sa earth, and then may mga fissures or leaks. Nainitan yung mga water resources dito ng molten magma. So kaya nagkakaroon ng hot spring or steam vent because of the action of the magma dun sa water na nagpercolate and fissures na usually malapit sa mga volcanoes. Okay, this figure naman is global geothermal sites. So nagko-coincide din siya dun sa previous figure na pinakita ko. Yung mga black dots are active volcanoes. Tapos yung ano naman, yung mga rings, geothermal power plants location. So yan. So andito ang Pilipinas. So yan. Nasa ano siya, Pacific Ring of Fire. Dito at saka dito. Ayan. Ito Africa, Italy, Turkey, Mexico, US, Indonesia, and New Zealand. And then based on this information naman or data, nag-coincide yung mga top 10 geothermal countries by year end 2020. Okay, so ano to yung mga parang total capacity ng power plants dun sa area na yon. So ang nangunguna is United States. So merong 3,714 megawatt installed capacity power plants. By the way, sa ibang bansa, meron pang ibang gamit ang geothermal steam. Unlike sa Pilipinas, usually ginagamit lang natin ang geothermal steam sa electric power generation. Pero sa ibang bansa, lalo na sa mga temperate countries like United States, ginagamit din nila directly yung geothermal steam sa heating, lalo na pag malamig. They are using the geothermal steam directly for heating their residences during cold season. Okay, so there was a time na pangalawa ang Pilipinas sa dami ng geothermal resources. Pero this time, dun sa 2020 data, in terms of installed power plants, pumapangalawa ang Indonesia. So merong 2,133 megawatt na capacity ang mga power plants in Indonesia, followed by the Philippines. As of 2020, merong 1,918 megawatt installed geothermal power plants with a total capacity of 1,918 megawatt, followed by Turkey. Ang Turkey nandito. So nire-report din dito sa Think Geo Energy yung mga additional power plant units based sa additional geothermal field capacity. After Turkey, sumunod naman ang New Zealand. Meron daw silang 1,005 megawatt installed capacity ng geothermal power plants. Okay, so ang New Zealand ito. Ay. Ito, Miguel. Okay, then next, Mexico. So meron namang equivalent to 962.7 megawatt ang capacity ng lahat ng geothermal power plants in Mexico. Ang Mexico located here. Ito. Then Italy, dito ang Italy. And then Kenya, dito. And then Iceland, sa taas. And then Japan. So ang Japan dito naman. Okay. So nagko-coincide yung mga countries na merong geothermal power plants dun sa map ng global geothermal sites. Okay, so based on information from Think Geo Energy, so ayan na nga. So these are the top 10 geothermal countries as of 2020. Ibig sabihin, top 10 geothermal countries na may geothermal energy source or yung electric power nila, ang source is geothermal energy. Ito. Okay, so it says here, global geothermal power generation capacity stood at 15,608 megawatt at the year-end 2020. The current pandemic situation clearly slowed down development with limited growth reported. Turkey represents nearly all geothermal generation capacity added in 2020. Okay, in the Philippines, these are the location of active volcanoes. So yan. So itong mga location ng active volcanoes, nagko-coincide din sa location, of course, ng mga geothermal power plants. This is an information or a map about geothermal service contracts. Ibig sabihin, yung mga power plants or yung mga geothermal field, meron na silang kontrata sa mga power plants na ganong kalaking amount of energy or ganong karaming amount ng geothermal steam ang isusupply nila sa power plant na yon para makaproduce ng ganong kadaming electric power. Kumbaga, isa sa mga requirements ng Department of Energy, kailangan bago maitayo yung isang geothermal power plant, dapat may kontrata na sila with or yung geothermal field dapat may kontrata na with a geothermal power plant bago sila payagang mag-develop ng mga or mag-maintain ng mga geothermal fields. So usually kasi in the Philippines, ibang kumpanya yung nagde-develop ng mga geothermal fields. Ibang kumpanya naman usually yung nagpo-produce ng power using geothermal energy. So magkahiwalay usually yun. Okay, so ito namang map na to, this is a geothermal area for offer. So ibig sabihin, na-establish na there are geothermal potential here. So geothermal energy exploration is feasible here in these areas. And so nag-i-invite na sila or nag-i-invite na ang Department of Energy ng mga firms na magde-develop ng geothermal fields sa mga areas na ito. So this is in Benguet. Ito naman sa Compostela Valley in Mindanao, and ito naman is in Davao Occidental. So as you can see from this dito naman sa mapa ng mga active volcanoes, marami ring active volcanoes sa lugar na 'yon. So nagko-coincide yung mga available geothermal fields doon sa location ng mga active volcanoes in the Philippines. How does geothermal energy work? Okay, so this is the heat from the Earth's core, tapos may reservoir of water. May mga geothermal field facilities wherein the steam from this reservoir, which was produced by the heat of the Earth's core, may mga facilities sila para mag-gather yung geothermal energy na mga power plants para mapatakbo yung turbines nila para mag-produce ng electric power. So dati kasi ang in charge dito sa generation ng power and transmission of electricity is National Power Corporation lang. So ngayon, because of the EPIRA, nahiwalay na yung in charge sa transmission ng electric power at saka sa generation ng electric power. Tapos, ever since, iba naman talaga yung in charge dun sa pag-develop ng mga geothermal field para maka-gather ng geothermal energy. Okay, so yung steam na nanggaling sa sa turbine, lalamig yun, pero mainit pa rin, so kailangang i-cool down through cooling towers. So yung picture ko kanina dun sa unahan ng PowerPoint presentation is actually cooling towers, or that is yung geothermal power plant ng Mount Apo. Yung meron silang cooling towers. Okay. So parang yung geothermal source of energy is very timely, especially with the enactment of Republic Act number 9513, Renewable Energy Act of 2008. So actually ang Ang first and foremost objective ng pag-implement ng Renewable Energy Act of 2008 is para ma-utilize ng Pilipinas yung own source of energy niya. Kasi currently, karamihan ng natin ng energy na or langis na ginagamit for electric power generation is galing from imported coal and imported oil, karamihan. So mamaya meron akong figure na ipapakita na malaking percentage ang imported source of energy natin, source of electric power. So with the implementation of Republic Act number 9513, ang gusto sana mangyari is unti-unti na tayo veer away from imported source of energy like coal and oil. And then nagkataon din, since ang geothermal energy source is hindi nag-emit ng carbon dioxide na number one cause ng climate change, nakakatulong siya sa sa pagpuksa ng climate change. Yung climate change naman, actually, as early as 1988, na-identify na natin or ng buong mundo na merong climate change, na ang number one source ng climate change is yung CO2 emission ng mga electric power plants globally. So again, ang number one source number one cause ng climate change is CO2 emissions from power plants globally. So sa buong mundo yun. So with this Republic Act number 9513, na hagip niya rin yung objective ng climate change advocacy na mapugsa yung climate change. So kung magre-resort ka in renewable energy such as geothermal energy, malilesen or totally ma-eradicate yung emission ng carbon dioxide. Okay, so nakalagay nga dito, energy sector is the leading emitter of greenhouse gas in the Philippines. Emissions mostly come from the combustion of imported fuels and other activities related to the production of energy, such as coal mining, oil and gas exploration, production, and processing. Okay, so this figure naman comes from came from the Philippine Energy Plan from 2018 to 2040. So pinapakita sa figure na ito ang sources of electric power generation by fuel type. Ito, in 2017, there is a total of 94.4 terawatt hour ang electricity na na-produce. Ito. But 46.8% of it comes from fossil fuels. So, na number one emitter ng carbon dioxide. So, ang renewable energy is 25.4%. But from that, ang geothermal is only 10.3%. Ayan, that's 2017. Tapos, nung 2018, ang percentage ng geothermal is 10.4% na from the 23.4% of the total renewable energy. Kasi of course, ang iba pang renewable energy can be from solar, wind, and biomass. And actually hydro is a renewable source of energy, pero sineparate pa nila yung kulay blue. Parang electric power from hydro power plants. Ayan. Okay. This figure naman presents the total primary energy mix by fuels shares. So by type of fuels, indigenous or imported one. So merong net imported coal, net imported oil, and indigenous energy source. So 50.2% naman in 2018 is composed of the indigenous energy source. Indigenous, which include oil, coal, natural gas, geothermal, hydro, biomass, and biofuels, and wind and or solar. Pero malaking portion pa din yung coal, which is imported coal, which is 17%. Meron tayong local coal eh. Ito. Meron din tayong local oil, pero mas malaki yung percentage ng imported oil. Okay, so bumaba yung contribution ng geothermal source of energy in 2018 from 2017, from 15.2% to 15% from the indigenous energy source. Now, this is the roadmap for the exploration, development, and utilization of geothermal resources in the Philippines. So this is from the Philippine Energy Plan 2017 to 2014. Okay, so yan yung mga plano. So in 2017, there is an installed capacity of 1,906 megawatt, and the objective is in 2040 to increase this capacity to 3,359 megawatt. So yan. So and in between, ayan yung mga gusto nilang gawin. One of the critical issues in the exploration, development, and utilization of geothermal resources in the Philippines is yung mga pag-secure ng mga environmental permits and approval of the permit to countries such as the SLUP or FLAG. Mga types of mga permit to countries ito. So yan yung number one problema. Medyo hindi madaling it would take time for issuance of permit to countries sa mga location ng mga geothermal field. Kasi usually ang mga location ng geothermal field sa Pilipinas is mga pristine areas, marami pang punong nakatanim, etc. So it's not easy to apply for permit to cut trees in those areas. Okay, this figure also came from the 2017 to 2040 Philippine Energy Plan. So for example, in 2018 or in 2020, merong two figures. Yung unang figure is reference, ibig sabihin if you're not going to use renewable source of energy, ito yung percentage composition ng mga source of electric power. Ito naman, clean energy scenario. Clean energy scenario. Okay, so in 2040, if hindi i-implement ng mabuti yung paggamit ng renewable source of energy, ang contribution ng geothermal energy is about 10% only. Pero if if the clean energy scenario, dahil sa implementation na nga ng Republic Act on Renewable Energy, tataas yung percentage ng geothermal source of energy from 10% to about 15% of the electric energy mix. So this is another figure from the 2017 to 2040 Philippine Energy Plan, reference versus clean energy scenario 2040 power generation mix by fuel shares. Okay, ito yung reference. If not patataasin yung share ng renewable source of energy, ito pa rin ang picture. But if there will be increase in clean renewable energy like natural gas and like geothermal, ito ang mangyayari. So of course, ito yung pinakita kong roadmap kanina, ito yung objective ng Philippine government through the Department of Energy. So infusion niya ng maraming source of renewable energy, yung sources ng electric power. Ayan. Okay, geothermal energy in the context of sustainable development. So yung definition or term na sustainable development was actually coined or sumikat noong 1992 UN Conference on Environment and Development. So at that time, and of course kahit sa ngayon, ang pinaka-ultimate objective ng mga developing countries is of course to develop. Pero by that time, in 1987 until 1992, yung nagkaroon nga ng United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, na-realize nila na yung development dapat tapatan ng environmental protection kasi maraming part na ng environment is nade-destroy because of continuous development na walang pakialam sa environmental protection. Pero ang ultimate objective natin is development talaga with environmental protection. Hindi the other way around, hindi yung environmental protection lang pero wala nang pakialam sa development, hindi ganoon. Ang objective ng UN Conference on Environment and Development is there should be your prime objective or ultimate objective is development, like especially for the Philippines, for example, kasi developing country tayo. Ang ultimate objective natin is development but with environmental protection. So nagkataon na naman since ang geothermal energy is kung magiging source siya ng electric power, dahil meron steam na kaagad siya, hindi siya mag-emit ng carbon dioxide. So sasagot siya talaga dun sa objective ng sustainable development. So malilesen yung greenhouse gas, and at the same time yung climate change na as early as 1988 na determine na nila na meron ng climate change, and ang number one cause nga is yung CO2 emissions ng mga power plants, electric power plants globally. So ang paggamit ng geothermal energy is again makakatugon doon sa sustainable development goal. So malilesen niya ang greenhouse gas. And ayun din actually yung isang objective ng yung RA on renewable energy sources. Okay, for the sustainability of geothermal operation, four performance indicators are prescribed. So number one, low carbon operation to minimize the effects of climate change. Pag nag-operate kasi ng geothermal power plant, gumagamit din ng kuryente para patakbuhin yung mga makinarya. Pero hindi naman nagpo-produce sila ng kuryente, doon sila kumukuha ng kuryente. Kasi yung kuryente na kinukuha or ginagamit ng malalaking industrial facilities, sa grid din kinukuha. So, yung kuryenteng galing sa grid, iba't ibang sources of energy na rin ang pinanggalingan. Maaaring kuryente na galing sa mga coal-fired power plants, sa oil power plants or oil-fed power plants. So kahit papano, indirectly, nag-emit pa rin ng carbon dioxide yung mga geothermal power plants and yung operations din ng mga nagde-develop ng mga geothermal power or geothermal energy fields. So nag-emit din sila ng carbon dioxide indirectly sa paggamit nila ng electricity para sa mga operations nila. Next is security of the geothermal resource through technological innovations. So may mga through time, technological innovations are constantly improving. So ibig sabihin, yung efficiency nung pagkuha ng geothermal energy from sa ilalim ng lupa is through time gumaganda. So para kung makuha ng mabuti yung mga energy source sa ilalim ng lupa. And then robust environment which can buffer the geothermal project from extreme weather events. So may mga lugar na nagiging madalas na yung mga malalakas na bagyo. So para maging sustainable ang isang geothermal operation, dapat meron na din silang sistema or on how to manage those disasters. So totoo yan kasi currently, di ba, meron nang inisyong Republic Act on Disaster Risk Management. So dahil sa dami na nga ng mga sakuna na nasasagap ng Pilipinas because of actually climate change. Yung mga malakas na bagyo, ang number one culprit niyan is climate change. So kasi dumadami yung carbon dioxide, so umiinit yung atmosphere, nagbabago yung climate kasi gumugulo sa taas dahil tumataas ang temperature, nagugulo sila. So ang effect is mas maraming bagyo, nagkakaroon ng extreme weather. Talagang dumating na sa point na hindi lang sa Pilipinas, kahit sa ibang bansa, ang mga advocacy nila or ang mga trust nila is yung paano i-manage ng mabuti yung mga natural disasters like bagyo, earthquake, etc. Actually, yung mga earthquakes din, related din yan sa climate change. Okay, next is sharing economic values through the developers' community projects that support the community's appropriate development and to maintain harmonious relations with the host community. So para daw maging ang isa sa mga indicator na sustainable yung isang geothermal operation is concerned din sila dun sa pangangailangan ng community, dun sa pinag-ooperatan nila na lugar. So dapat meron silang corporate social responsibility. In other words, dapat tulungan din nila yung mga community dun sa place ng mga geothermal operations nila. Okay, so ito naman is comparison of the CO2 emissions of different power plant type. So, sa column 1, power plant type, may coal-fired, oil-fired, gas-fired, at saka geothermal steam. So sa column 2 naman is average emission rate in pounds per megawatt hour. Column 3, annual carbon footprint in tons per megawatt per year. So ang geothermal steam, kahit hindi siya, wala ng combustion dun sa production ng electricity, meron pa rin. Kasi ito yung kuryenteng ginagamit sa pagpapatakbo ng mga makinarya nila para mag-produce ng electric power. So geothermal steam ay may pinakamababang, ang tawag nila ngayon is annual carbon footprint. Pero basically, ano lang siya, yung CO2 emission in tons per megawatt per year. So again, with this, may pinakamababang carbon dioxide emission. Pwedeng sabihin na ang renewable source of energy like geothermal is responding to the objective of sustainable development. That is, nagde-develop ka, nagpo-produce ka ng maraming electricity kasi yun naman ang number 1 na kailangan for development. Pero at the same time, dahil hindi nga siya nag-emit ng, or konti lang yung CO2 na ine-emit niya, ano siya, nagre-respond siya dun sa objective ng sustainable development. Okay, so ito namang calculations na ito is CO2 mitigation by additional geothermal capacity of 1,371 megawatt, or kinakalculate niya ilang CO2 yung ma-offset niya dahil geothermal source of energy ang ginamit niya at hindi coal, hindi oil. So, ang nakalculate niya is 5,165 or 5.1 million kilograms CO2 per year. So, ito yung dahil gumamit siya ng geothermal instead of coal-fired power plant sa pag-produce ng electricity, sa pag-produce ng 1,371 megawatt of electricity, ito yung carbon dioxide na na-offset niya. So, tumutugon siya talaga sa objective ng sustainable development. Okay. This figure naman is from the DOE's the Philippine Energy Plan for 2018 to 2014 naman. So itong green na area na to is the avoided CO2 emissions. Ito, so in 2018, 15.8 metric ton CO2. And in 2017, 14.6 metric ton CO2. Okay, so ito yung pag infuse ng geothermal energy as source of electricity. Okay, so ito naman environmental benefits and challenges associated with geothermal power generation. So sa isang geothermal exploration sa Pilipinas, isa sa mga yung power, halimbawa magtatayo ka ng power plant to produce electricity from using geothermal energy source. May mga environmental permits requirements. So depende sa megawatt, halimbawa sa isang power plant, depende sa megawatt na itatayo mo, masasubject yan sa sa EIA activities or EIA requirements based dun sa PD 1586 or yung Philippine legislations on environmental impact statement. Okay, so I understand familiar naman po kayo sa sa pag-conduct ng isang EIA sa mga development projects. Lalo na yung mga yung mga safety officers sa Pilipinas, 'di ba? Usually I understand yung mga safety officers are also the pollution control officers. Di po ba? Walang sumasagot. Hello po.
Opo, ma'am, nire-require po sila, nire-require po yan. Lalo na po, ang bawat LGU nga po nire-require ng pollution control officer as well as the companies.
Yes, oo. So sa bawat development activity na ginagawa mo sa isang lugar, yan, depende kung gaano kalaki, sinasubject sa sa EIA regulations. Ngayon, itong mga yung mga geothermal field exploration at saka pagtayo ng mga geothermal power plants para mag-produce ng electric power, nire-require yan ng DNR na mag-apply ng environmental compliance certificate, but before they can issue environmental compliance certificate, dapat mag-submit ng environmental impact statement yung mga project proponent. But before they can submit or develop an environmental impact statement, dapat maggawa muna sila ng environmental impact assessment. Okay, so from the term itself, environmental impact assessment, i-identify nila yung mga iba't ibang activities at the different stages of the project, like during pre-construction, ano yung mga activities, during construction, during operation, and during the commissioning stage, ano yung mga activities, tapos ano yung mga potential impacts ng mga activities na yon sa 4 components of the environment, the land, the water, the air, and the people. Tapos kung may magandang effect yun or impact, paano i-enhance yung mga good impacts, and kung may mga adverse impacts naman, ano yung mga management measures na pwedeng gawin para totally ma-eradicate yung mga adverse impacts or at least ma-lessen. Okay, so sa isang geothermal power plant operation or geothermal field exploration, may mga iba't ibang klaseng impact. So number 1, may mga environmental impact. So ang isang common environmental impact is reduction or loss of vegetation during earthworks and clearing activities. So applicable to both for geothermal field exploration or yung magde-develop pala ng facilities para mag-explore ng geothermal field, o kaya puput up or magko-construct ng isang geothermal power plant. So applicable itong potential impact na to, reduction or loss of vegetation during earthworks and clearing activities. So sometimes positive siya, so restoration of vegetation that is net positive to the environment. Kung naman siya, kung adverse siya, so ang usual management measures is revegetation and or engineering measures for soil stabilization. Okay, so ang isang impact din is soil erosion and siltation. The usual management measure is proper siting of spoil disposal areas and engineering measures. Another potential impact is the physical disturbance of waterways. So ang solution niyan is the proper drainage design. Another potential impact is alteration of water quality due to discharge of effluents, both for geothermal field exploration and construction and operation of geothermal power plants. So the usual management measures is full pre-injection to remove the path of contamination of water bodies. And casing of geothermal boreholes to separate geothermal waters from the water table, absorption of minerals by membranes, water quality monitoring. And then another potential impact is the change in air quality due to NCG emissions, and one of which is the carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide can be used as fertilizer, or it can fertilize agricultural plants and horticultural species. And para naman ma-absorb yung carbon dioxide na pwedeng ma-produce during geothermal field exploration or construction and operation of geothermal power plant, vegetation planting to sequester carbon from the environment can be done, and extraction of CO2 for industrial uses can also be done. And then ang isang environmental impact ng geothermal field exploration and construction and operation of a geothermal power plant is the production of hydrogen sulfide. Yung ano kasi yung geothermal steam, almost always meron din kasamang hydrogen sulfide. Sa mga geothermal field at saka geothermal power plants, usually nangangamoy yung H2S. Kasi ang geothermal steam talaga merong yan ang usual component ng ng geothermal steam, merong hydrogen sulfide. So para malaman yung impact ng emission ng hydrogen sulfide from geothermal field na in-explore or sa malapit sa isang power plant, construction or operation, usually sa environmental impact assessment stage, gumagawa ng air dispersion modeling to locate facilities away from population. So parang yung air dispersion modeling is parang mathematical calculation yan para ma-predict kung saan pupunta, depende sa direksyon ng hangin at saka sa lakas ng hangin at saka sa concentration ng H2S dun sa source. Pwedeng i-predict kung saan saan most likely pupunta yung H2S emission, saang direction sa different time of the year. So, para malocate nila yung power plant, in such a way na yung mga H2S emission is hindi mapunta dun sa, halimbawa merong community malapit sa lugar, ilalayo nila dun sa community para maiwasan yung adverse effect ng H2S emission. Okay, so pwede rin gawin yung chemical gas abatement for emissions beyond air quality standards, dissolution of NCGs in condensates and reinjection to geothermal reservoir, and pwede ring bacterial treatment and air quality monitoring. So para malaman kung nag-exceed na sa air quality standards yung concentration ng H2S emissions. And then sa mga geothermal field, usually elevated ang noise level. So during planning stage, pwede ring mag-noise modeling to locate facilities away from population. So in noise modeling, magpapredict mo, kahit wala pa yung facilities doon, like yung geothermal power plant, mapapredict mo kung saan patungo yung noise dahil sa operation ng geothermal power plant. So pwede mong pwede mong iplano or i-design yung planta mo in such a way na hindi maapektuhan sa ingay ng planta yung nearby communities. So another management measure is use of silencers to minimize noise during well discharge and during operation of emergency diesel generator set and black start engines. And pwede rin gumamit ng noise attenuating equipment barriers. Okay, another mitigation measure for noise emission is natural or enhanced vegetation as noise buffer and also noise monitoring. So ground subsidence, ibig sabihin baka naman gumuho yung yung ilalim ng lupa kakasipsip mo dun sa geothermal steam. So ito yung usual mitigation measure, reinjection to maintain reservoir pressure, and subsidence monitoring within the steam field. So baka naman magkaroon ng increase in seismic activities dun sa lugar. So normal geothermal operation only causes microseismic activities which are not felt by man. For EGS, refinement of the method is ongoing. So there can also be generation of solids and other wastes. So ito yung usual management measures, practice of 3R, reduce, reuse, and recycle, proper waste disposal, toxic and hazardous waste are handled by accredited waste treatment and transport facilities. And there can also be land use alteration. So usually kasi yung location ng mga geothermal field is parang siguro dati agricultural land siya, pero since or baka kailangan i-convert into industrial land. Kasi pag magtatayo ko ng planta doon, definitely hindi na yun for agricultural purposes. So baka maraming requirements yung LGU doon sa lugar. So kailangan i-meet mo yung requirements or mag-comply ka dun sa requirements ng LGU para mag-apply ka kunwari ng land use alteration. Okay,
Siguro,
so yes.
Siguro po ma'am, yung sa sinasabi nyo, yung sa zoning yun, yung zoning ordinance ng LGU.
Yes, oo. Lagi kang, kasi originally meron na silang proposed land use for that zone. Di ba? Kaya nga zoning. Tapos kung magtatayo ka doon ng planta, ma-alter na yon. Pero usually, pwede namang i-apply ng pag-change ng land use. Kasi hindi na magiging sang-ayon doon sa proposed land use nila. Pwede namang mag-usap usually yung LGU and yung project proponent para mapalitan, para mabigyan ng tamang zoning yung lugar dahil from agriculture to industrial use na. Okay, so letter B, involvement of the project developer in the management of the area due to its interest to protect geothermal resource. It will ensure minimal alteration of the land use of the area. Pero usually conversion of land use ang nangyayari. And number one, yes.
Hello po, ma'am.
Yes po.
Kaya nga po siguro diyan nakikita yung halaga ng ini-empower talaga yung mga LGU para sila mismo maprotektahan nila yung sarili nilang lungsod o bayan sila ay nagde-define kung saan ba pag nagka-classify sila ng mga area kung ito ba is commercial, ito ba doon na pumapasok yung ito ang nagiging challenge siguro na magiging isang challenge sa pag put up ng isang geothermal project.
Yes po, oo. Yan, laging challenge yan sa mga, not just geothermal projects, kahit yung iba pang infrastructure na usually ipuput up dun sa isang pristine na agricultural area. So mapapalitan na yung land use niya. So, kailangan mo mag-comply dun sa mga requirements ng LGU. So, anyway, lagi namang isa nga yun sa mga sinasakop na ng environmental impact assessment. Laging ini-involve ang stakeholders dun sa bawat activity ng project proponent. So, lahat ng gagawin ng project proponent is dapat involve ang LGU, involve ang all stakeholders including LGU, not just LGU, pero yung iba pang stakeholders like mga NGO, mga private citizen, lahat ini-involve para alam nila kung ano yung gagawin ng project. Tapos kung meron silang pagtutol doon, pwedeng pag-usapan. Kaya nga sa mga EIA or ECC application, sa mga environmental impact assessment activities, kasama yung merong public scoping at saka public hearing. Para kung merong concern yung mga stakeholders, pwedeng pag-usapan kung anong magandang gawin para mag-meet kayo halfway. Kasi remember, ang ultimate objective is development. So paano mo ibabalansehin yung development with environmental protection? Hindi pwedeng puro environmental protection lang. I-disregard mo na yung objective ng development. Dapat ang primary objective is to develop, but you have to coincide it with environmental protection. So mag-uusap yung project proponent at saka all other stakeholders kung meron man silang concerns. Okay, so another potential impact of geothermal field exploration and geothermal power plant construction operation is loss of biodiversity and ecosystem disturbance. So, ito yung mga enhancement aim for no net loss or net gain of ecosystem services for the environment per protocol of the IUCN, reforestation beyond the replacement of cut trees but based on lost ecosystem services. So yan mga jargons nila yan sa mga biodiversity management. So ito naman yung mga proposed management measures for adverse effect, integration of biodiversity consideration into the EIA of the project prior to implementation, purposeful avoidance of rare, endangered, and threatened species during earthworks, adoption of mitigation hierarchy approach from avoidance, minimization, restoration to offset and ecological reconstruction. And minimization of openings in the project design and use of directional drilling to minimize pad openings to avoid impairment of ecosystem services, closure of wildlife corridors and impending natural waterways, and location of geothermal infrastructure and support facilities outside the environmental critical zone. So, nasa environmental impact. Yung next na impact, okay, so more management measures to minimize loss of biodiversity in the proposed location of the geothermal field and geothermal power plant. So meron ding migration of wildlife due to the disturbance of loss of habitat. So ayan yung mga corresponding usual management measures na ginagawa. And then yung social impact naman. So ang isang positive impact ng geothermal field exploration and construction and operation of a geothermal power plant is increase in local employment. So this is a positive impact. So i-enhance mo. Okay, so sa mga ganyang infrastructure project, given na yung pag-prioritize dun sa mga locals para dun sa mga sa i-hire para dun sa implementation ng project during construction and operation. Ayan. So promotion of gender equity. So women are given roles in community projects and given equal opportunity to represent the community in monitoring the geothermal project. So matagal nang nauso or matagal nang pinaprioritize yung women in we should be involved in development projects. Tapos increase fund for community development. So may mga CSR funds, tapos may mga royalties, local tax fees, or voluntary funds. So marami na rin kasi tayong batas na minamandate yung mga project proponent to work with the community. Tapos yan din, community development, this is a positive impact. So, nandun na rin kasi yan sa environmental impact assessment. So, sa DNR pa lang, nire-require na yung involvement ng project proponents sa community. So, dapat meron silang mga community development project programs. Titingnan ng DNR yon at aaprubahan. Hindi ka mabibigyan ng ECC pag wala kang community development programs or social development programs. Ito, physical and economic dislocation kasi dun sa mga proposed location ng geothermal field and geothermal power plants, baka may mga taong ma-dislocate. So, kailangan silang mabayaran ng mabuti. So usually usually binabayad at pumapayag naman na nagkakasundo naman sila sa dun sa ibabayad nila, dun sa mga taong maaaring ma-dislocate ng project. Tapos may mga cultural impact din, limitation of traditional way of life, encroachment to ancestral domains, effects on sacred sites, yan yung mga common cultural impact of the geothermal field and geothermal power plant projects. And yan naman yung mga corresponding mitigation measures. Okay, so that's all for the possible environmental impact and possible or usual enhancement and management measures sa isang geothermal field or power plant construction and operation activities. Okay, so let's now go to the safety management of geothermal facilities. Okay, so sa Pilipinas, of course, meron tayong yung pinaka-latest rules and regulations for safety management of any facilities. Meron tayong RA 11058 at saka yung DO 198 at saka yung, of course, ginagamit pa rin natin yung OSH standards. But yung renewable energy safety, health and environment sector, merong sariling safety, health and environmental regulations from the Department of Energy. So parang sa ibang sector like for example sa mga mining sector, wala naman atang separate na safety, health and environment rules and regulations. So parang ang ina-adapt lang nila yung regulations ng DOLE. Like yung RA 11058, tapos yung latest implementing rules and regulations noon, yung DO 198 at saka yung OSH standards, yun lang. Pero ang renewable energy may sariling safety, health and environment rules and regulations from the Department of Energy. Pero of course, kumbaga nagkaroon lang ng another layer ng pagpulis sa compliance sa mga safety regulations na ang ginagamit naman na mga panuntunan is yung DOLE regulations pa din. Parang may additional requirement lang yung DOE. So, kung makikita ninyo, this Department Circular Number DC 2012-11-0009 is in general for renewable energy. As a result of this, merong binabalak na Safety, Health and Environment Code of Practice, ang DOE, specifically for geothermal activities. Pero ano pa lang ito, draft pa lang ito. Draft pa lang ito, hindi pa to nilalabas. Pero since marami sa inyo, or almost all of the participants here from the Philippines are, I understand, safety officers. So, yung mga basic na laman nito, itong Department Circular number DC 2012-11-008, ito yung mga usual requirements for safety compliances. I understand, alam nyo na ito, pero silipin lang natin kung ano yung nandito. Nakikita nyo? Minsan kasi hindi lumalabas eh.
Hindi po, ma'am. Hindi namin nakikita.
Oo, sige. So I have to stop sharing the PowerPoint and open the file separately. Wait lang. Ayan po, kita nyo na.
Yes po.
Okay, so ito na yun. Okay, Statement of Authority. So pursuant to Republic Act number 9513, otherwise known as the Renewable Energy Act of 2008, and Section 5 of Republic Act number 7638, otherwise known as the Department of Energy Act of 1992, and in order to ensure adequate safety and protection against hazards to health, life, and property, as well as pollution of air, land, and water from renewable energy operations, the following safety, health, and environmental rules and regulations are hereby promulgated. Okay, so nagkaroon lang ng isang layer. Lahat ng requirements ng DOLE parang imo-monitor ng DOE. So parang anytime pwedeng mag-random or mag-regular monitoring ang DOE ng mga safety compliances based sa DOLE regulations sa mga renewable energy sites, like sa mga construction ng mga solar, umpisa nga, or including halimbawa dun sa mga factory na mga solar panels, mga ganyan. Tapos sa construction site na mga renewable source of energy na mga generation facilities, like mga solar, yung mga proposed solar and wind facilities or power facilities, yan. So merong karapatan ang DOLE na mag-inspect or mag-monitor. Okay, so may mga authorized representatives. Pero ang imo-monitor naman nila lahat is yung mga compliances sa mga DOLE, DOLE regulations. Ayan. Okay. Okay, so nagkaroon ng powers and duties of the director. Ito yung director ng EMB, ay ng DOE bureau, ng isang DOE bureau or his duly authorized representative. So yan. Okay, ang isang requirement dito is yung yung DOE daw has the power to issue suspension or variation order in accordance with Rule 1012.03 and 1012.04 of OSHS as amended. Mga tungkol sa ano yan, mga variation contracts. Okay, so itong duties of employers, ayan din yung requirement ng DOLE, etc. Tapos may duties ang employees, yung usual safety duties. Okay. So pero since 2012 ito in-issue, pero ang latest implementing rules and regulations ang latest RA is in-issue 2018 lang. Tapos 2018 din in-issue ang latest implementing rules and regulations ng RA 11058. Lahat ng nandito is superseded na ng latest amendments ng DOLE regulation. Ayan. So meron pang Safety, Health and Environment Committee requirements. Tapos qualification of safety engineer na officer in issuance and cancellation of safety officers or safety engineers permit. Baka ito na supersede na ito ng latest implementing rules and regulations ng RA 11058. Ayan. Okay, so Rule 5, General Safety, Health and Environment provisions, safety and health training, PPEs, workplace monitoring and control, electrical and mechanical works, guarding of machinery, work permit system, the use of commercial explosives, construction works, fire protection and control, serious and imminent danger, hazards communication, environmental compliance. So ito naman compliance sa mga DNR requirements, occupational health requirements, health program, health services, and then Rule 7, administrative fines and penalties. And then the final provisions.
Ma'am, excuse ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, actually magkaiba po yung pag-designate ng safety officer ng DOE at saka ni DOLE po. So sa DOLE po, hindi na po kailangan i-apply sa DOLE, is kailangan lang po i-designate ng company. Whereas dito sa DOE, kailangan pong i-accredit ni DOE mismo.
Oo, parang another layer po yun aside from from requirements ng DOLE, meron ka pang imimit na requirement ng DOE, di po ba?
Yes po ma'am. So magkaiba po sila. Yeah. Tama po. Is another thing po.
Oo, parang doble-doble. Kasi parang binabantayan ng ng DOE yung renewable energy, like geothermal activities na activities and compliances to safety regulations. Ayan po. Okay, so tapos ngayon try lang natin tingnan yung yung specific DOE regulations on safety management on geothermal activities. Yes, sandali lang po. Sandali lang po, hindi ko makita yun.
Sige po, ma'am. Wala pong problema.
Thank you.
Meron lang ho nag-share dito habang babasahin ko lang po. Si Sir Clemente, I think ENP to si Sir Clemente, no?
Yes.
Senior lang niya.
Yes, sir.
Sa comprehensive land use planning ng LGU, pwede po incorporate yung energy source zone importance. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, oo.
Okay na.
Oo. Tama po yun. Ito po yung yung proposed department circular ng DOE on geothermal safety. Kita niyo na po
Yes po.
Okay. So this is the proposed department circular number of DOE on geothermal safety, health and environment code of practice. But as of today, this is not yet finalized and implemented, so proposed pa rin. And 2016 pa ata itong draft proposed department circular on geothermal safety, health and environment code of practice. Okay, so ang kaibahan lang nito, because this is specifically for geothermal safety, nadagdag lang yung requirements on hazardous waste management and Clean Air Act. Ayan na-involved na yung RA 6969, the Toxic Substances and Hazardous and Nuclear Waste Control Act of 1990, the RA 8749, the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999, and the sabagay dati nang nasa yung Fire Code of the Philippines of 2008, RA 9514. Okay, so i-scan lang natin yung mga yung mga provisions or clauses niya. So section 3, safety, health and environment practices, general safety, office safety, laboratory safety, PPEs, so na yan, common na yan, housekeeping, workplace monitoring and control, ayun, hydrogen sulfide or H2S safety. Dahil ang isang emission ng geothermal field or yung location ng geothermal power plant is yung hydrogen sulfide from the geothermal steam. Okay, so yan, workplace monitoring and control.
So ma'am,
Permissible.
clarification lang po, no? So ito pong pinapakita nyo ngayon is just a proposal o in-implement na po ba to or na-approve na to ng Department of Energy?
Proposal pa lang, pero actually kahit hindi pa to na-implement dahil may iba't ibang iba't ibang regulations ng DOLE at DNR, parang in effect, kahit hindi naman to na-implement, I understand, nagagawa din naman ito. Kasi yung mga requirements na yan, requirements din ng ng DOLE and DNR.
So kaya po pala binanggit nyo kanina yung DOLE, yung requirement ng SO, no? Para dahil required ang bawat establishment to have their own safety officers, no? Opo. So ito yung pinaka magiging guidance ng specific for geothermal operation to implement yung occupational health and safety management system. Am I right, ma'am?
Yes,
Okay po.
But basically, yung requirements ng DOLE, ang ginagawa na rin naman ng proponent. Parang nire-reiterate lang ng proposed guidelines na ito, yung requirements ng DOLE.
Pero
Actually.
Clarification lang po. Itong geothermal, for example, no, it's run by the private entities or companies or under ba siya ng GOCC or a government entity is running the geothermal?
Sa ngayon, lahat private na sila. Yung nagpapatakbo ng geothermal field, like yung PNOC tsaka EDC, dati GOCC sila pero pinagbili na rin sila eh. Tapos yung mga power plants, dating National Power Corporation na nagpapatakbo, pinag-privatize na rin. Private na sila lahat.
In that case, cover talaga sila ng DOLE, ng RA 11058 when it comes to safety. Apo.
Okay, oo, yes.
Sir, excuse me po. So, covered pa rin po yung geothermal ng DOLE po. Actually, lahat naman kino-cover talaga ni DOLE. Dito lang si DOE, may specific function lang siya to monitor talaga yung operation ng geothermal fields, geothermal companies. So, tama si ma'am, it's another layer of compliance on the part ng mga geothermal operators.
Oo nga, para binigyan ng karapatan ng DOE yung sarili nila na mag-monitor.
Actually,
Yes,
ma'am,
actually,
kaya ko po tinanong 'yon in addition in relation sa sagot ni Sir, no. Kasi po may provision din po ang R11058 na hindi niya cover ang government entity. But there's also a joint memorandum circular with the Civil Service Commission na mag-implement na rin ang government entity ng OHS plan or management system. Kaya ko po kinlarify po yung kanina. Hindi
Okay,
hindi sakop lahat ng DOLE. May exemption ho ang bawat batas. Apo.
Yeah. Yung mga public offices po, hindi po covered ni DOLE, but karamihan na po dito sa mga geothermal operators are already private po.
Private,
Except po pag NPC kung meron pa. Pero I think parang wala
nang MPC. Wala na pong NPC.
Pati power plant, puro private companies na. So sakop po sila lahat ng DOLE regulations po.
Yes,
the funny thing kasi sir, if you will read the RA 11058, hindi sakop ang government entity ng DOLE ng RA 11058, pero yung mga kontrakto ng government ay sakop nila. Opo. Ganun din po yun. So parang ito, babatayan ko lang yung tao nyo. Ganun po yun.
But meron na pong pinalabas si DOLE ngayon na standard for public offices or government po. So regulated na rin po yung mga government entities po when it comes to occupational safety and health po.
Hindi ko po masasagot. I mean, hindi po ako
meron na po yan.
Sa particular na yon. Kasi ang government po ay sakop ng civil service. At ang civil service, kung babasahin yung GMC Circular Number 01, ang civil service po ang lead agency ron. Ang role po ng DOLE is to formulate policy lang, no. When it comes to implementation, I don't think na sila. So something na lilinawin po natin. Salamat po.
Okay po.
Okay. Thank you. So ayan. So meron ding blackout, tag out, and try out procedures. Electrical works requirements, demolition requirements, working in confined spaces procedures, ayan, etc. Ayan, hazardous materials handling and storage, compressed gas handling and storage, flammable liquids handling, storage, labeling and disposal, explosives storage, use and transportation, warehouse safety, ladder safety, lighting protection, facility improvement works, roads works and or earth moving, piping and insulation works, hot works, mechanical and equipment installation, motor vehicle and heavy equipment operations, hoist and lifting works operations, fire hazards protection and control. Okay, so meron namang Fire Code of the Philippines, yun din naman ang susundin na regulations, fire hydrants, fire hoses and accessories, scaffolding safety, scaffolding components and requirements, training and competency competency requirement. Machine shop safety, tools, equipment and machinery operations, machine guarding, biological safety, emergency and disaster management, communication, incident reporting and investigation, health, environment and safety plan, geohazards requirements, power plant and control room safety. So sa power plants naman, power plant, control room safety, UPS and battery bank room requirements, electrical power facilities and equipment repair and troubleshooting. Naging very specific na nga lang for geothermal facilities, including power plant facilities. Ayan, sa mga geothermal activities naman.
Actually, ma'am, maganda nga po yan kasi para po sa construction, no, yung isang sinusunod nila sa standard. Ito rin maganda kung susundin para sa geothermal. Kasi we are anticipating nga yung sinasabi niyo na sustainable development in the future. We are expecting na tataas yung demand ng geothermal. No? So kung may implement to, advance to tayo, proactive yung approach.
Oo nga sir, mas maganda yung very specific yung guidelines po, ano. May susundin ka na kaagad. Parang detailed nila yung mga requirements din. Ayan po. Ayan, hanggang dyan na lang po. So, of course, merong separability clause, resolution of conflicts and overlapping jurisdictions, repealing clause, and effectivity. So, but then again, hindi pa na pa-finalize ito at hindi pa na-i-issue. So, that ends my presentation, and questions po are welcome.
Thank you po, ma'am. So,
You're welcome.
I request all the participants po, no, if you have questions, just switch on your mic para po marinig natin lahat, and paki-on na din po yung camera kung pwede po. So, are there any questions po? Kanina, ma'am, actually may nag-send po ng question through the direct message. What are the reasons, despite the development of energy conservation program and the use of renewable energy, the cost of electricity is still higher in the Philippines?
In general, ang ERC kasi, yung ERC sila ang nagre-regulate ng mga pricing. Parang ang ang methodology nila is yung proponent or yung nag-generate ng electricity o kaya yung nag-transmit ng electricity, may karapatan silang humingi na increase, pero i-detalye nila yung expenses, mga expenses nila. So, parang pa rin kasi, depende pa rin sa expenses or yung cost ng operations ng mga proponent o yung nag-generate or yung nag-transmit ng electricity. So, depende sa ng ERC, sa approval nila. Kaya hindi pa rin actually na wala atang ceiling. Wala ring ceiling kung hanggang magkano yung nila, magkano yung i-request nila for approval. So depende nilang sa ERC kung aaprubahan o hindi.
Okay po,
So
ma'am.
in general ganyan po eh. Yung nasa proseso po ng ERC yun eh.
Talagang malaking factor yung operational cost dun eh. Tsaka mga gamit na mga resources na ginamit during the commissioning and yung actual operation na po. No?
Oo.
Malaking
Yes.
Yes po, okay lang po, ma'am. Go ahead po.
Oo. Yun nga, as you've said, malaking factor yung operational cost.
Yes po. Ma'am, may tanong po ulit rin na isa kanina. I think this was during the first part of your presentation, no? When you've discussed about our place as a country in terms sa usage ng pagkakaroon ng geothermal power plants sa buong mundo. So bakit daw po ba nag-slide sa third place ang Philippines sa installed geothermal capacity?
Hindi na marami tayong geothermal potential, pero in terms of yung sabihin nating investors, walang masyadong nag-i-invest.
Okay.
So kaya with the even meron ng yung Renewable Energy Act, parang it's a matter of yung magko-convince ka ng investors to invest in geothermal field exploration and power plant operation.
Tama po yung sinabi ni ma'am kasi mas prefer ng mga investor na mag-invest sa solar tsaka sa windmill, no? Opo, yun po yung takot sila sa geothermal dahil yung napaka-risky sa investment nila dahil matagal. Involved yung drilling, siting, yung mga nabanggit kanina ng isang ANP nga na yung land use planning. So yun yung mga challenges when it comes to geothermal. Yun yung siguro kaya yung ibang bansa, they have the capacity or they have their budget to implement or to construct more geothermal project. Kaya siguro na tayo sa number 3. Pero in the near future siguro mas magiging dependent tayo na makapagdagdag pa ng geothermal. Opo.
Yes, totoo po yun. Yun, totoo nga po yun. Parang pag nag-invest ka kasi sa geothermal, parang baka matagal lang RO. Yung hindi kasing bilis ng kung mag-invest ka sa coal-fired power plant, parang madaling itayo ang coal-fired power plant basta may pwesto ka. Pwede at meron kang approval from DOE, pwede ka na magtayo kaagad. Although sa geothermal naman, marami namang, as I've said, marami tayong potential, marami na ring area for, di ba may pinakita akong mapa kanina na for parang for contracting. Meron ng feasible geothermal field na readily available na, kulang na lang, parang inaalok na sa mga investors. Readily available na, pero parang hindi masyadong kinakagat ng mga investors. Hindi yun parang hindi madaling kumita sa geothermal energy or geothermal power plant.
Parang long term po yan eh. Baga yung sa huli yung kita. Sa unang investment pa lang, for example, ako investor, mag-invest ako sa geothermal. Sa drilling pa lang, baka maging cost pa to ng earthquake o hindi natin alam, no? Meron akong napanood minsan sa case sa Korea kung saan yung isang drilling ng geothermal project ay nag-cost nung earthquake, no. So baka doon pa lang matapon na yung pera. Yun nagiging doon pumapasok yung sinasabi niyo kanina, ma'am, na EIA as well as yung risk assessment, no. Kung talagang feasible yung lupa, to become a potential sa geothermal. Kasi kung ang potential lang sinasabi is magiging source siya nung heat thermal na tinatawag, eh dapat i-consider din natin yung ibang mga tanong. Gaya nga na baka maging potential to for earthquake or whatever. No? Salamat po.
At saka dahil sa setup ng Pilipinas, puros na private firm yung na-involve sa power generation and power or geothermal field exploration and generation. Parang syempre ang nasa isip ng mga private firms is investment and kita. While baka sa US at saka sa Indonesia, baka mga government project ang ang geothermal field exploration and power plant generation. Baka mga government projects yan. So, depende kung ang first and foremost trust nila is, halimbawa, ma-resolve yung climate change nga. So, kahit mahal, sila doon. Pupunta sila doon. Lalo nga kung gobyerno ang mag-implement ng mga exploration and yung power plant generation or electric generation.
Opo ma'am, buti nga ako nabanggit niyo yan kasi meron din akong mga nakita mga renewable project, no, like yung windmill, no, sa may Pililla Rizal na experience ko. At tinanong ko yung isang admin doon, sabi ko, eto bang nagbe-benefit dito yung mga residente? Oo raw. Tinanong ko, yung kuryente ho ba nila maliit na? Ganun pa rin daw. So I mean, okay, nakatulong tayo sa environment. Pero yung baga na nakukuha sana natin na kuryente from the from the natural resources itself, no. Hindi rin naman pala totoong makakabawas naman o makakatulong sa natin, no, sa mga residente o kapwa natin, no, Filipino for example. So parang hindi rin nagiging parang hindi fully developed, matatawag na fully development siya.
Oo, kasi yung sa nagtanong nga kanina na mataas pa rin ang kuryente, yung mga host community, kasi yung kuryente na yan, pinapadaan pa din sa grid yan, hindi naman pwedeng kumuha ka ng konti. Dumadaan pa din sa grid yan. Tapos yung kuryente ginagamit ng mga tao doon sa distribution line naman ang nagaling din sa main grid. Kumbaga hindi pwedeng sabihin na kung nandun ng planta pwede kang bigyan ng mas mababang kuryente. Hindi pa rin kasi dadaan sa proseso or sa usual distribution ng mga electric co-op o kaya ng Meralco, dadaan pa rin sila doon. Hindi naman pwedeng yung mag-tap sa mga power plants. Hindi ganoon. Sa grid, dadaan sa proseso, dadaan pa rin sa grid. Tapos yung transmission grid, magbebenta sa mga electric co-op o kaya Meralco, doon pa rin kukuha yung mga residente doon or yung mga locals. Ang pwede lang ganon, wind at saka solar usually kasi may mga solars na or solar energy na hindi na kinakabit sa grid. Kaya nagtatayo ng solar, halimbawa sa isang building o sa isang bahay para mabawasan na yung Meralco bill nila, magso-solar sila. Ayun, pwede yun. Yung kumbaga parang for personal use yung pagtatayo ng solar. Kasi meron din palang mga solar power plants na malalaki ang capacity, ikinakabit din sa grid. Pero yun siguro, yun pa yung pwedeng magbigay ng konti sa community. Pero mahirap pa din. Unless may tigi-isang solar panel yung bigyan niya ng tigi-isang solar panel yung mga bahay doon. Magkakaroon sila ng sariling baterya, kumbaga.
Tama naman po, maganda ho na napaliwanag niyo yun. Pero sa aking pananaw kung gobyerno mismo ang hahawak sana at hindi lahat ibibigay sa private, bakit naman hindi bababa? Kasi at the end of the day, nagagastos din naman ng gobyerno sa mga project na yan. Maaring yung private nagbabayad in advance or whatever, public-private partnership. Pero sa bandang huli, hindi rin nagbe-benefit ang mga ang Pilipino, kung ganyan ang prinsipyo. So dapat
Hindi nga po.
uh,
Mali nga po yung pinaribitize eh. Dapat dapat
Opo.
hindi pinaribitize. Tapos nagpunyagi yung gobyerno para kasi dahil marami naman pera ang gobyerno talaga pwedeng nilang gawin
Totoo.
lahat para mapamura actually.
Totoo, kaya ako mismo hindi ako pabor sa privatization dahil yung essence ng public administration o governance ay hindi na-achieve. No? Yan po ang aking pananaw. Maraming salamat po, ma'am.
Thank you din po.
Okay po. For the next question, meron po tayo from Sir Neil. Paano po mag-apply for DOE certification as safety officer?
Yung pinakita ko kaninang yung DO Circular 2012-11-0009. I'm not sure kung masusupersede ng DOLE requirements yung requirements nila or based doon meron silang meron sila palang sariling requirement for safety officer requirement. Nandun po doon sa circular. Pwede ko po kayong bibigyan naman po ata kayo ng kopya or pwede kong ibigay sa inyo yung yung circular. Pero paano ba ito? Sa ano po ba kayo sa geothermal or renewable energy activities? Kasi pwede naman pong i-confirm sa DOE din. Kagaya po ng ibang mga issuances ng, for example, issuances ng DNR, mga memorandum circular issuances. Pwede po naman talagang i-interpret mo sa sarili mo, pero pinakamaganda pa rin yung tatanungin mo yung nag-issue. Kasi minsan may mga gray areas. Tapos it is always a good practice to confirm or to validate dun sa nag-issue. Lalo na kung hindi malinaw yung nandun sa regulation. And di ba usually yung mga agencies pag nag-issue sila ng mga regulations, nagko-conduct sila ng parang information campaign about dun sa requirements ng bagong regulations. Yun po.
Nag-message po si Sir Neil, taga NGCP project daw po sila pero nasa loob ng EDC sa Kidapawan, BS Core.
Sige po.
Sir Neil, baka gusto niyo pong may follow-up question pa po kayo. You can open your mic po.
Tiga project po si Sir Neil. Projects ng NGCP.
Mukhang di ho ata makapag-open ng mic si Sir Neil. So I hope po nasagot yung question nyo ni Ma'am Lou. And it's really best po na i-clarify to sa DOE itself eh. So meron pa po tayong another question from Sir Jim. How is wastewater management done during exploratory drilling?
Wastewater.
Yes, how is wastewater management done?
I'm not sure sa ngayon. Yung meron dito kaninang yung safety officer ng ng construction sa TV.
Can I share, ma'am?
Yes,
Ma'am, can I
sir.
share? Yeah.
Yes
Ma'am, ano po yung
po.
question po? Ano po yung question po about
Ano daw
wastewater?
minamanage yung wastewater sa exploratory drilling?
Okay. Ma'am, I will just share what I know po, ma'am. So during
Oo.
drilling po, during drilling of a well, magko-construct po sila ng pond, a sump pond, no? 3-stage, usually 4,000 cubic meter capacity, and they put up a pump at the third sump. Then they recirculate the wastewater and reuse it during the drilling operation. And kung may matira pang wastewater, they just contain it in the sump. And when it is clear, nagsettle yung solids, then if the reinjection well is available, then they can also reinject that drilling fluid, the clear one, into that reinjection well.
Sir,
That's
ano
how
po yung
they
usual component ng wastewater? Mga ano lang, solids lang?
yeah,
Or
may mga drilling chemicals din at mga mud, they call mud, MUD. They used to during drilling to cool the bit. Then hindi namin tinatapon sa ilog. They temporarily store it in the sampans which are also lined with cement and or polyethylene lining to isolate it from the environment.
parang physical lang sir yung ano, yung treatment or
Yes po, ma'am. Physical lang po, ma'am. Okay, physical.
okay.
And to
Oo.
reduce that use of water, so they recycled it back during the drilling operation.
Oo. Sir, bali nasa ano po kayo? Kayo po yung nasa TV?
Di pa man dito sa Mount Apo po ako dati, ma'am. Geothermal power plant sa Mount Apo.
Oo. Saan na po kayo ngayon?
Ano na po ako, freelancer na po ako ngayon as a safety officer po.
Okay po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Elmo.
sir.
Maraming salamat po. Napaka-clear ho nung ano yun. Senior
Oo.
po.
Okay. So share ko lang po din yung about the requirement for safety officer ng DOE for geothermal po. So from the binasa po ni ma'am kanina, the applicant shall submit, the applicant is a licensed engineer with 2 years experience in occupational safety in the renewable energy industry and has attended the BOSS training. And number 2, degree holder, pwede ring degree holder or 2 year in college with at least 5 years actual experience in occupational safety in the RE industry and has attended BOSS training. And it would help if you have accreditation as OS practitioner. Yun po ang basic requirement for the accreditation as a safety officer under DOLE po. So it has a particular requirement for experience in the RE industry po. So unlike po sa ibang safety officer, as ang requirement lang, for example, safety officer 3, 2 years experience in OS. Pero sa DOE, you have to have 2 years experience in renewable energy industry. So that's something na magkaiba sila. Pero yung training, BOSS
Specific.
training is yeah. So sa BOSS training, pareho naman po ang requirement nila, BOSS training. Yes po.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Thank you po, Sir Elmo. Maraming salamat.
Oo.
Are there any questions pa po for our presenter? Okay. From Victor Sia, how is the emission of hydrogen sulfide being managed not to harm human health?
Oo. Yung nabanggit ko kanina during the planning stage or during the environmental impact assessment stage, naggagawa sila ng ng numerical modeling or mathematical modeling parang ano yun, parang mathematical calculation based sa direction at lakas ng hangin sa during southwest monsoon o kaya north and northeast monsoon. Parang titingnan nila kung saan usually pumupunta yung hangin at tinatanga yung H2S emission. Parang i-locate nila yung power plant or geothermal field in such a way na hindi nandun sa direksyon ng ng community kung merong mga community doon. Tapos of course dahil regulations naman ng DNR, merong regular monitoring. May mechanisms on minomonitor yung paligid kung meron kasing standard yung H2S concentration. So minomonitor yan. I understand meron pang yan multipartite monitoring regular, usually quarterly, para ma-ensure na yung H2S concentration dun sa lugar is within the DNR prescribed standard on H2S concentration.
Hello ma'am, clarification. Yung sa tanong po ba sa H2S, ano po yun? During drilling po ba yan o during operation or?
Pwedeng ang H2S emission kasi pwedeng manggaling sa exploration. Tapos yung power plant usually malapit lang sa location ng in-explore na geothermal field. So yung vicinity ng power plant, vicinity din ng ng geothermal field. So pareho. Pero dahil magkaibang entity naman usually yung power plant operator at saka yung nagma-manage ng geothermal or nag-explore ng geothermal field. Meron silang hiwalay na compliances. Pero isang area lang yung nila. Isang area lang yung ginagalawan nila.
Okay po, ma'am. Thank you so much po. We have another question from Mr. Ramil. Maganda yung renewable energy, but anong plan ng Energy Department sa non-renewable energy?
Yung pinakita ko kaninang slide na roadmap ng geothermal, parang ayun nga, sa geothermal meron silang planong i-increase yung sources ng renewable energy. And at the same time, unti-unting kumukonte yung dependence ng energy sector sa coal at saka sa oil. Nasa lahat yun, nasa Philippine Energy Plan. Pero actually, minsan masyadong ideal yung plano dun sa Philippine Energy Plan, pero karamihan or in most cases hindi siya nasusunod kasi parang nagwawagi palagi yung mga investor. Kung investor ka, mas madaling kumita sa coal-fired power plant o kaya sa oil-fired power plant kasi yung mga technology at saka yung mga pag put up tsaka yung mga sources ng coal, sources ng oil, madaling mag-import, mas mabilis. Parang ang pangangailangan sa kuryente, kumbaga ang bilis-bilis lumaki ng pangangailangan sa kuryente or yung demand sa kuryente, mabilis mabilis tumaas. So ang sagot diyan yung pag-put up ng oil at saka coal-fired power plants dahil mabilis. Kasi pag renewable source of energy, like for example sa wind power, parang konting megawatt lang ang mapuproduce mo sa halimbawa sa isang napakalaking area na lalagyan mo ng mga windmills. Ganon din sa solar energy, napakalaking area ang gagamitin mo para makapagtayo lang ng solar power plants na konting megawatt lang yung makukuha mo sa malaking area na gagalaw na ipuput up mo. So kung ang pag-uusapan is yung energy demand or power demand, hindi na magdadalawang isip yung gobyerno na payagan na lang mag-venture into coal and oil-fired power plants yung mga investor para masagutan kaagad yung pangangailangan sa kuryente.
Mukhang may follow-up question po si Sir Ramil. Sir, open your mic po.
Okay, I have a question only. Kasi kung sa pollution index sa buong mundo, mababa lang naman ng Pilipinas regarding sa pollution index. Ngayon, lumalaki ngayon pa natin regarding sa energy. So, I don't think so na hindi, kasi yung mayayamang bansa tulad ng US at ng China, they are the one who contributes a lot regarding with the pollution, regarding with the cause effect. Tayo mga nasa 0.5 lang something sa atin yung sa index natin. So, I think pwede pa naman tayong gumamit doon. Well, good thing na meron na tayong renewable energy na nagpa-process. But kasi masyado siyang expensive. Hindi siya practical sa mga nagsimulang bansa tulad natin na lumalaki yung pangangailangan. So, regarding doon sa non-renewable energy na fossil fuel, saka doon sa nuclear power plant sana, kung sana may plano pa yung energy department natin, baka makatulong. In a way, pero tuloy lang yung sa renewable, okay din yun. Even na matagal.
Sir, with regards to venturing into nuclear power plant, meron silang mga moves ngayon Gusto nga nilang ipabukas ulit yung Bataan nuclear power plant. Pero yung site lang naman ata, pero yung mga makinarya doon, parang definitely hindi na pwedeng gamitin. Kasi ang nuclear power plant naman, parang wala siyang CO2 emission. Yung ang lang sa kanya, yung negative impact, yung danger na magkaroon ng leak ng radiation dahil dun sa mga nuclear fuels na ginagamit. Pero naman ngayon marami ng technology para masiguro na walang leakage na mangyayari.
So, ma'am, yung isang bababa yung price ng natin, yung current supply natin, bababa yung presyo niya, di ba?
Yes, from nuclear source of energy. Tama.
Thank you.
So, Sir Ramil, so parang sa'yo, okay na mag-pursue sa renewable energy and likewise i-maintain yung non-renewable sources as a source of electricity or energy like that.
For the meantime, sir, kasi humabol tayo sa pangangailangan lang ng Pilipinas sa ngayon. Kasi sa dami ng industry ngayon, nangangailangan talaga siya ng energy na immediate. So kung magaan tayo ng mga non-renewable, sa renewable, medyo matagal Pero kung meron naman tayong non-renewable na available, kaya nga yung karamihan ng mga bansang maliliit, they are focusing on the non-renewable. Kasi practical siya Nakapag-provide siya ng energy na kailangan, pero madali lang siyang gawin. Even though na meron siyang side effect na greenhouse effect, pero kung yung mayayamang na bansa nga na kaya nila mag-provide ng renewable energy, but they still using the coal plants like US, like China, some other part in Europe still using that one Kaya lang, ang technical lang doon, mayroon talaga siyang long-term effect. Kaya until na meron pa rin tayong mga fossil fuel na naghahanap pa kasi nga inisip nila baka in the end of baka magkulang na yung fossil fuel, wala na tayong renewable energy na magamit for the future.
Actually, if you remember yung sinabi ni Ma'am Luisa, yung ang purpose kasi nung renewable, delve siya sa sa sustainable development. Oo. If we focus with the non-renewable, fossil fuel, coal, mawawala sila. Next 200 to 400 years, mawawala na tayo ng coal ayon sa study, no? And same with the fossil fuel, no? So, kailangan talaga mag-plan ahead na ang bawat bansa, ang bawat gobyerno, no? Particular sa ating bansa. Yet, tama yung sinabi mo, maaring maliit yung ano natin, source ng pollution compare sa ibang bansa. But in a macro level, mas napipil naman ng mga tao dito, na tao sa bansa natin itself, kung meron naman tayong pollution. Kaya nga binabalance ng mga departments natin, ng government departments. Kaya ni-implement natin yung mga batas. Maganda rin yung point mo, pero ang goal kasi natin is sustainable development. Yung bagay, sabi nga sa Tagalog, mapapakinabangan ng mga apo ng apo mo yung environment. Tama po ba, Ma'am Luisa? Thank you po.
Yes.
Thank you po.
John.
We have, yes po, Sir Delphine. Mukhang may tanong po ata si Sir Delphine. Go ahead po.
Okay. Doc, magandang hapon po. This is Delphine Gonzalez. I was also a former safety officer sa construction safety. Last week ago, I attended International Environmental Summit. One of our
Yes, sir.
she's a lawyer from Palawan State University. Ipinakita niya dun sa Palawan yung mga environmental na fully destroyed, exploited, polluted because of some corrupt officers in our country. Yun ang sinabi ni lawyer ng aming speaker. Now my questions, what a specific crime, a specific environment crimes committed in geothermal industry? What a specific environmental crime na nangyayari sa mga geothermal energy? Is there any environmental crimes?
Yes po. Meron po tayong Clean Air Act of 1999. Nandun nga yung nakasaad yung halimbawa yung tungkol sa H2S emission. Dapat yung may-ari ng geothermal field o kaya geothermal power plant, dapat lagi nilang masunod yung limit ng concentration ng H2S na nakalagay yun dun sa Clean Air Act or dun sa Memorandum Circular ng DNR. Pag hindi nila natupad yun, through monitoring of DNR or through usually merong multipartite monitoring dun sa lugar. Pag hindi nila na-meet yung or lagi sila nag-fail dun sa concentration ng H2S dun sa lugar, ambient or emission concentration, that's a crime. Pwede silang yung DNR mismo ang mag-ano sa kanila, indadaan sa proseso. Una, bibigyan ka ng, pag meron na silang proof na dito sa report na to or dun sa self-monitoring report, lagpas-lagpas yung emission mo, pwede ka nilang bigyan ng notice of violation sabay invitation for a technical conference, tapos mag-uusap kayo. Parang dun sa notice for technical conference, nakalagay doon na or binibigyan ka ng ng pagkakataon na mag-explain mo yung sarili mo para or patunayan mo na hindi mali yung ginagawa mo para hindi ka namin sampahan ng kaso. So yung paglagpas pa lang dun sa limit ng concentration ng H2S dun sa ginagalawa ng facility, parang na yan, pag napatunayan na lumagpas ka nga, crime yun, pwedeng maging yon, crime. Pero yun nga, laging pwede naman makipagtulungan sa DNR. Pwede mo i-correct yung kahit hindi ka na kailangan sampahan ng kaso, pwedeng mag-usap na lang kayo, i-correct mo na lang yung concentration ng H2S mo, gumawa ka ng paraan. Pwedeng palaging makipag-usap sa DNR. Kasi yun na nga, ang objective is development, sustainable development nga, kaya dapat sundin mo yung requirement ng DNR. O kaya sa mga wastewater, meron tayong Clean Water Act of 2004. yung mga wastewater, kagaya nung nabanggit nung kanina nagtanong ano daw yung ginagawa dun sa wastewater during drilling. So sinagot naman ni Sir Elmo Botardo na meron silang mga mga pond na pinuput up dun sa lugar para i-treat yung mga wastewater na galing sa drilling. Kasi dapat masunod din nila yung yung limit na binibigyan ng DNR dun sa concentration ng halimbawa total suspended solids na nandun sa wastewater, dapat hindi lumagpas dun sa standard ng DNR. Pag lumagpas, pwede kang i-monitor ng DNR tapos pwede kang questionin ng DNR. Yun po.
Follow-up question, ma'am. Merong
Yes,
isang
sir.
merong isang departamento sa NBI, National Bureau of Investigation, Environmental Crimes Department. Ang trabaho nito, ma'am, manghuli ng mga companies na hindi sumusunod sa mga environmental laws. Dapat ba ang DNR ang mag-i-impose yan o yung NBI under Environmental Crimes Department ng National Bureau of Investigation?
Maliwanag DNR. Hindi ko alam kung bakit may ganyan sa NBI. Hindi ko alam kung baka
Meron silang
pag lang
division
yan.
Departamento under Environmental Crimes under ng National Bureau of Investigation.
Kasi pag may mga environmental non-compliances, ang nagpo-process ng parusa, unang-una yung Regional Environmental Management Bureau dun sa concerned region. Tapos iaakyat niya sa sa central office sa Pollution Adjudication Board. Tapos dun sasampahan ng parusa yung nagkamali based sa recommendation ng Environmental Management Bureau. Magko-concur na lang yung Pollution Adjudication Board sa central office ng DNR. Hindi ko alam kung kailan at saan papasok ang NBI. Baka may mga cases kasi na
Pag malakihan na siguro ma'am, may mga kaso like mining, yan, malakihan na yan eh. Mga, halimbawa, biglang merong nagkaroon ng landslide, no? Because of a certain project involving yung environmental, papasok ang NBI dyan. But I think they will
hindi,
still...
kasi ang yung mga batas tungkol dyan, halimbawa sa mining, MGB ang nagbibigay ng batas, under pa rin ng DNR yon. Tapos palaging, di ba sa mga Republic Act, o kaya mga memorandum circular, may mga andun yung provision on penalties. Sila ang nagpe-penalize, hindi NBI.
Ma'am, hindi mo magpa-penalize ang NBI, kundi sila lang mo siguro ang mag-enforce ng certain batas na dapat mas mapadali. And likewise, they will still use as a legal basis or reference yung batas ng DNR. Parang ganun po. Parang nagsumbong ka sa police. Ganun. Ang NBI kasi, meron silang mga department talaga, ma'am. Meron silang mga section na related sa bawat crimes, no? Siguro kung environmental crime na ho yan, hindi it's not a certain environmental violation, na magkaiba kasi yung violation lang sa crime, no? So, na po yan?
Kayang crime po yun nangyari? Kasi sinasakop naman ng mga environmental regulations. Yung mga, pag sinabing environmental crime, paglabag sa mga environmental regulation, na ang nag-i-issue ng mga penalty yung DNR, yung Pollution Adjudication Board, through the recommendation of the Environmental Management Bureau. Anyway, dahil nalaman ko yan, titignan ko kung ano yung mga cases na hinahawakan ng NBI.
Yun ang maganda.
Tama, Mate.
Hindi ko kasi alam.
Si Sir Delphine kasi hirap magtanong.
Saka
Sir, ano kayang kaso, for example, yung hinawakan ng NBI?
Kasi may isang kasama ko rin trainer, nabanggit sa akin yan na merong isang specific department sa NBI specialized on crime cases or offenses. Now, gusto kong malaman ano yung mga specific environmental crimes, kaya naitanong ko po sa inyo, Doktora.
Titignan ko po kasi pag... Titignan ko pa po kung anong crimes
Pero
kasi ang
magandang
alam ko,
katanungan to, ma'am, kasi curious ako ano mga
yes. Titignan ko sir kung ano yung mga crimes na hinahawakan ng NBI. Ano yung mga environmental crimes.
Thank you very much, Doktora. Salamat po. Thank you po.
Thank you din po.
Basta definite, hindi littering yan, ma'am.
Oo nga po.
Thank you po sa mga kay Sir Delphine, Sir Albino. We have another question po from Mr. Victor. Anong method and material na ginagamit sa reinjection para mapanatili ang integrity ng earth core? Kasi sa gold mining, concrete cement ang ginagamit.
Di ko masyadong alam yung pag-technology sa drilling. Sir Elmo, baka alam nyo.
Okay. So, yung tanong niya is anong material and method ginagamit para ma-maintain yung
Integrity ng earth
core,
core.
yeah, earth core. Maybe ang just to clarify, maybe ang sinasabi niya na earth core, maybe he is referring to or she is referring to the reservoir po, reservoir. Kasi whenever hindi naman po natin tinatap yung earth core, napakalalim po nun. Ang kaya lang po iabot ang kaya lang po iabot ng technology.
Masusunog.
Yeah, masusunog po. Hindi po tayo abot diyan. Mga nasa 2 to 3 kilometers lang po ang lalim ng well natin, geothermal well. Okay. So pag nag-drill po tayo ng geothermal well, we are using these carbon steel pipes, no. So geothermal well, yung production well, pag drill yan, we are using yung material po is carbon steel pipes. So we drill up to 2 or 3 kilometers down, no? Hanggang maabot natin yung hot water reservoir na sinasabi ni Ma'am kanina. Then we also drill a well, what we call a reinjection well. So yung purpose ng production well is where we extract the steam and the hot water. And yung purpose naman ng reinjection well is where we dispose and reinject the wastewater from the geothermal operation. Pwedeng galing sa power plant and galing during drilling, no? So, yung construction ng reinjection well, pareho lang po yan pag habang kinoconstruct natin yung production well. So, we are still using that carbon steel pipes. Almost the same depth, around 2 to 3 kilometers down po ang depth niya. So, what is the methodology? Kung yung location ng pond or yung power plant is above the reinjection well, so so naturally pwedeng magflow yung wastewater from up from the elevation down to the lower reinjection well. Or kung yung reinjection well is mas mataas, naturally hindi siya magpo-flow by gravity, so you need a pump to force the wastewater to be reinjected into the reinjection well. And once na ginagawa mo na yung reinjection well, what really happens in the geothermal operation is that yung yung production well will you will extract steam there and hot water, so it will cause some pressure difference in the sector of the reinjection well. So maraming mga instance na yung mga reinjection wells develop negative pressure. So they accept wastewater when you reinject in the reinjection well. So
Thank
yung
you.
method ay pwedeng by natural gravity or through use of a hot water pump.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Mukhang hopefully nasagot naman po yung tanong niyo, Sir Victor, no? We have another question pa po regarding drilling din again, no, ma'am and sir. What happens when H2S emission exceeds standards during exploration drilling?
Ma'am, pakiulit po yung
Sir
question
Elmo
mo.
din.
Yung tanong po is,
Kota
what
na ko, ma'am, ha?
happens when H2 emission exceeds standards during exploration drilling?
Of course, stop work as per safety. Simple as that.
Oo nga. Oo.
Exit siya eh.
Pero nangyayari po ba yun, Sir Elmo? Yung tumataas yung
Yes,
nag-exceed
ma'am.
yung
So,
concentration ng
yeah.
H2S?
So, nangyayari talaga yan, ma'am, during drilling. Actually, may mga monitors yan eh. May mga H2S monitors nakakabit doon sa drilling rig. Pag nag-alarm yon, umabot ng certain level. So, tama si Sir doon, Albino, mag-stop work yan. Yung mga tao doon sa mga workers doon sa taas ng rig, bababa yan sila. So may mga ano yan sila, may wire rope yan sila to easily escape in a fast manner doon sa isang safe na lugar. And nagmo-monitor din sila diyan ng wind direction, no? Naglalagay sila ng ano bito yung wind vane, no, para ma-monitor kung saan papunta yung hangin. And actually before drilling, may assessment na yan sila kung makaka-encounter ba sila ng high H2S during drilling. So, nakikita nila ano yung mga preparation na gagawin nila once ma-encounter nila. And kung talagang accidentally mataas talaga yung H2S, they can shut down yung tinatawag nilang BOP, nakatawag ko na, no? Blowout preventer, just to contain at hindi na lumabas yung gases at saka yung H2S from the well po. And kung gusto magpatuloy, pwede naman nating dahan-dahan i-disperse yung gas in the environment para ma-disperse siya at hindi maapektahan yung mga workers during operation.
Totoo yung nasabi ni Sir. Siguro doon na pumapasok yung engineering control sa safety, no? Kung meron talagang significance na ituloy yung operation in the presence of H2S, doon pumapasok yung paggamit ng mga airline respirator or SCBA, at least to prevent yung yung exposure ng tao. But ako, experience ko rin sa H2S, no? I'm working with the waste treatment plant, STP. So ang ano niyan, ang based sa exposure sa H2S, ang importante lang talaga diyan ventilation. Sa drilling, I think na kung magkaroon man sila ng drilling, one time, big time lang yan. And if you will implement control measure like engineering control, at the end, mawawala yan, mababawasan, o mamimitigate talaga yan. For sure yan, 100% yan. Ewan ko kung tama ako, Sir Elmo. Pero sa amin, ganun kasi dito sa STP.
Correct, sir. Ganon, sir. So, pwede ka rin magkabit ng piping from your activity. So, para yung dispersion, medyo malayo, hindi malapit sa mga workers. And hindi naman ganun kadelikado yan doon sa drilling kasi open area yan eh. Nasa open environment ka eh. So, yung ventilation, tama yung sabi niyo, sir, it's not really a problem. Yun lang talagang surge lang talaga ng H2S, yung delikado. But yun nga, may escape routes naman sila na ginagawa. Meron silang, tama yung sabi niyo, sir, may skaba naman silang pwedeng gamitin, ihagilap during drilling operation na madalian. So lahat naman ng mga control sa engineering, admin, PPE, kompleto naman po yan. Yan po ang binabantayan ni DOE sa amin during their audit. Actually, mas madalas mag-audit yung DOE kaysa sa DOLE sa operations namin. Yung audit nila, every quarter. Pero si DOLE, yes sir. So, every quarter. And talagang may report silang ginagawa. So, bago sila umalis, talagang dinidiscuss sa amin ng mga findings nila. Unlike sa kay DOLE, no offense naman kay DOLE, siguro nakita nila na mahigpit na si DOE sa amin. So medyo kampante sila sa amin. Which is actually naman talagang nangyayari yon. Si DOLE, paminsan-minsan na lang mag-inspect kung yun na lang mga inspection sa mga vessels, yun na lang ang ginagawa nila. But yan, kampante sila sa amin kasi si DOE has actually more stricter rules when it comes to health and safety sa mga geothermal entities po.
Kasi involved na yung mga highly technical diyan eh. Safety issues ba? Hindi yan basta yung parang requirements lang ng PPE, no. It's more
Correct,
on
sir.
identifying and eliminating the risk, no, during the
Correct,
operation.
sir. Like for example, drilling. Walang expert sa drilling, sir. Kahit geothermal operation, wala tayong makuha expert sa geothermal. It's really the private entities, private companies who has the expertise when it comes to these activities. Kaya nga po kung napapansin yung discussion ni Ma'am Luisa kanina about the health and safety code, no, for the renewable energy. Actually, geothermal industry lang po ang meron yan. Actually, other na mga power sources like coal and hydro, wala pa po sila niyan. Actually, si geothermal lang po ang merong ganyang klaseng code sa ngayong panahon po.
Salamat, sir. Salamat.
Thank you po. May follow-up question po si Sir Ramil. Sir, you can open your mic po and you can ask na po directly.
Thank you, ma'am. Mapalap ko lang regarding sa di ba? Regarding sa environmental law, kasi ang Pilipinas, alam ko, isa sa pinakamaraming nagawang environmental law eh. But the problem is sometimes yung support, because para maging effective yung law, kailangan nila ng support from the government is fund and other technical people to do the environmental law application. Because sometimes yung mga bigating kumpanya, dadaan nila sa mga expert nila. So, minsan binabaliwala na nila yung environmental law na meron tayo. Kaya napapabayaan din yung environmental natin. Regarding po ba sa DNR, the government have fund you enough para gawin to? Implementation?
Ganito po, parang medyo maliwanag na kulang sa resources ang DNR kasi unang-una, di po ba meron tayong requirements on submission of self-monitoring report, di po ba? Yung mga PCO din, self-monitoring report. From the term itself, self-monitoring report, parang ikaw magre-report ng sarili mong compliances sa DNR through that self-monitoring report. Tapos isasabit mo yan quarterly. Tapos yung DNR, dahil sa kakulangan nga ng resources, parang i-check lang nila randomly yung mga sinabit na SMR ng mga owner ng mga facilities. Tapos at saka lang sila mag-conduct ng monitoring kung meron silang makitang obvious na non-compliances. Pero galing din yun sa ni-report ng may-ari. Parang self-monitoring report nga eh. Parang tapos nira-random checking lang nila. Hindi naman talaga i-check isa-isa. Tsaka yung every period na sinasubmit ng proponent kung tama yung mga entries doon. Kasi ikaw ikaw magre-report ng halimbawa compliances mo doon sa mga halimbawa sa water quality or effluent discharges standards, tsaka sa mga air quality and emission, ambient air quality or air emission standards, ikaw magre-report nun. So, unang-una, yun nga, ganun yung isang sitwasyon na yung proponent ang nagsasabit ng self-monitoring report. Parang gumawa sila ng mechanism para kahit hindi sila mag-monitor physically, parang may nangyayaring monitoring from the proponent itself, self-monitoring on the assumption na syempre hindi naman magsisinungaling yung yung proponent doon sa nire-report nila. Parang umaasa din ng mabuti doon sa mga proponent. Na of course, hindi sila magsasabi ng hindi totoo. So yun. Medyo maraming regulations na hindi masyadong na-implement. Kasi kulang ng resources yung DNR. Kulang na kulang. Sa mga tao, kulang, parang kulang yung mga tao nila para mag-monitor. Kaya nga dinevise nila siguro yung self-monitoring regulations.
Siguro ma'am, ang isang rin dyan, solusyon ng gobyerno, no, nire-require nila ngayon yata yung bawat LGU magkaroon ng ENP, no, environmentalist. Oo. Environmental professional, ENP. kung papansinin niyo yung prinsipyo ng batas, ang waste management, ang RA 9003 nagre-require ng solid waste management officer. Ang DNR nagre-require ng pollution control officer. Ang energy sector nangangailangan ng certified what they call this one, energy conservation officer or manager, no? So ang ano nila is more on delegation, no? And likewise, mapapansin nyo rin na ang prinsipyo ng batas, nire-require rin nila ang pagkakaroon ng mga committee, ng mga board, interlink, no? Doon pumapasok tinatawag na interlocal cooperation. Na kung hindi kaya ng isang LGU o isang kaya ng certain bayan, eh, pwede naman tayo magkampi-kampi para magawa natin o ma-implement ang isang proyekto. Aminin man natin hindi, no? Ang Pilipinas ay marami talagang batas. Pero kulang tayo sa tinatawag na political will, no? Sa pagpili pa lang ng mamumuno sa atin, sa ano, eh something na malalim na usapin na hindi natin ma-judge kung ito ba yung magiging tama o mali. Pero ang ano talaga, marami, yung future generation, yung sinasabi ni Ma'am na sustainable development, hindi ito nag-a-apply lang kung sa environment, sa energy sector. Maski ito yung sa social, ano rin, nag-a-apply ito. Na, I mean, inahanda dapat natin yung future ng mga susunod na henerasyon na ma-enjoy din nila yung natural resources. Kahit tayo dati, sisipa tayo, tumatakbo tayo sa mga talahib. Ngayon, wala na tayong matakbuhan, ma'am, di ba? Lahat, puro mga bahay na, semento na, kaya nga nagbabaha. So, si Sir Ramil siguro, ang ano dyan, alam ko, excited na rin to si Sir Ramil. Nasa Pilipinas na ba kayo, Sir Ramil?
Wala pa sir, nasa Dubai pa ako.
Antay mo, malay mo, baka pag uwi natin, okay na. Andiyan na naman sila Sir Elmo, tsaka sila Ma'am Luisa. Baka tatapikin na rin balikat ng mga ano natin para sa batas. Sige po, salamat po.
Sir, pakitap ko lang. Kasi regarding doon sa nangyari sa environmental degradation sa Manila Bay, then somehow na-realize ng hindi mo alam kung sino may liabilities doon regarding doon. Either local authority ba or yung national natin. Kasi napabayaan ng matagal na panahon eh. Then suddenly, ngayon, nakita natin na pwede pa na maayos. Ang masama doon, yung matagal na panahon na yon nagdusa yung Pilipinas, tapos actually, mahalagang bagay yung fresh water na yon. Mapagkukunan yun ng mga pagkain ng mga tao eh. But eventually, napabayaan yun. So now, ang tanong ko lang, kaya siguro may NBI, ma'am, regarding doon para malaman nila, sino bang pwede nating liabilities yun? Sinong pwedeng sisihin? Sinong pwedeng kasuhan ng civil or criminal liabilities? Kaya siguro, ma'am, mayroon silang mga NBI department for that.
Sir Ramil, hindi ko pa rin makuha yung role ng NBI, pero i-research ko 'yon. Pero kung ang pag-uusapan yung Manila Bay, po ba sabi nyo, sa kasi sa Clean Water Act of 2004 na provisions na wala sa mga provisions ng mga lumang water quality criteria and standards. Meron dong tinatawag na yung creation ng water quality management area and corresponding water quality management board. So, bali po, halimbawa sa isang water systems or isang water body, like halimbawa, parang Manila Bay yung narinig ko na binanggit ninyo. Kung dati, ang nagre-regulate is yung DNR lang. Halimbawa, sila lang ang magmamonitor, sila lang magsasampling, sila lang mangangalaga. Dahil dun sa requirement on Water Quality Management Board and corresponding Water Quality Management Board ng isang na-designate na water quality management area, like halimbawa isang buong Manila Bay, ang mga members doon is hindi lang tiga DNR, parang stakeholders involvement nga, sa pag-manage ng isang water body. So, ang member dun sa board na yun, Water Quality Management Board, ang member are representatives from DNR, representatives from LGU, from other national government agencies, from advocacy groups. So kung gusto nila, involved din nila ang NBI, pwede rin. Pero yung body na yon, yun ang mangangalaga sa halimbawa Manila Bay. Halimbawa nakapag-create ng isang water quality management area or naging isang water quality management area yung isang buong Manila Bay, tapos nag-form ng board. Tapos yung board ang mangangalaga, sila gagawa ng mga plano at mag-i-implement ng plano at magmo-monitor para mapanatili yung yung gustong water quality ng Manila Bay. So ganun po. Tapos sako pa din ng mga penal provision ng Clean Water Act yung mga non-compliances na gagawin ng mga concerned stakeholders. So as far as Clean Water Act is concerned and yung role ng Pollution Adjudication Board ng DNR, parang yun, sila talaga yung masasabi ko na yung mangangalaga. Pero yung pagpasok ng NBI, hindi ko pa din alam kung saan sila papasok dun sa maliwanag na provision ng batas ng Clean Water Act. Kung ang pag-uusapan ay pangangalaga sa isang water body like Manila Bay.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope nasagot po yung question niyo, Sir Ramil, no? Okay, last question po before we finish our session for today. From Sir Basil. Hindi ba dapat ISO accredited ang mga developers na yan para strictly compliant sa environment standards?
Let me answer that. Ang ISO 14001, parang inimbento yan ng ISO bago lang or long before ang bawat project proponent, halimbawa ng geothermal field exploration, geothermal power plant, meron na silang unique environmental management system. Ano ba ang objective ng environmental management system kahit hindi ISO standard? Siyempre ang primary purpose niyan is ang ultimate objective is ma-comply yung mga environmental regulations. So ang ISO 14001, I can say is may mga dahilan yung mga kumpanya kung bakit sila nagsusubscribe doon, pero I understand kahit wala pa yung ISO 14001, ang bawat isang kumpanya ay merong isang unique at maipagmamalaki nilang sariling environmental management system. Kasi syempre ang number one objective ng mga environmental management system is i-comply yung mga environmental regulations. So hindi ko mo ISO 14001 is mas maganda yung environmental management system mo. Kasi ang sinasabi lang ng ISO 14001 is kung ano yung mga programa na ginawa nyo para tuparin yung mga environmental regulations or para i-comply ang environmental regulations, gawin ninyong mabuti. Ginagawa mo namang mabuti, but may magsasabi pa sa'yo na gawin mo yon. So, yun yung ISO 14001. Pero hindi naman natin masisisi yung mga nagsusubscribe sa ISO 14001 kasi they have their own reason. Parang din yan pampaganda ng ng company, ang tawag doon company profile. Like yung mga Japanese, mahilig sila mag-subscribe sa ISO 14001 or any ISO management systems.
Tama naman po si ma'am. No? Actually, ang mga ISO standards, hindi naman po siya mandatory. No? But you will lose nothing if you will follow the standard. Dahil ang batas itself is something that have to be enforced. No? Meron siyang fine. Ang pinapakita ng standards po kasi ma'am is to give you the guidelines and the requirements itself for you to fulfill a certain objective. No? Kaya po
Yun nga,
Ah.
parang ini-structuralize lang nila yung pag-comply sa mga regulations. So kung hindi ka aware na ginagawa mo naman ng mabuti yung o ng kumpanya ninyo ang lahat para makomply yung mga environmental regulations, parang pwede kang hindi mag-subscribe doon at kasi alam mo naman yung ginagawa mo eh. Kasi minsan parang yun po, parang akala mo yun pa yun talaga yung dapat gawin. Pero as long as meron kang sariling environmental management system na ang objective is makomply yung environmental regulations, maganda na yun.
Tama naman po kayo ron, ma'am. Ang kagandahan lang ho talaga nung EMS, for example, not only EMS, no other standards. If you will follow all the clause and the standards itself, no, in the implementation of your management system, doon pumapasok na yung mga audit, no, na I mean yung magkakaroon ka ng continual improvement, like just kung papalo ka lang sa batas, you are just using yung batas as a legal reference in the implementation of your management system. Masasabi natin na hindi siya incomplete, lalo na kung hindi ka naman nagkakandak ng audit, hindi mo monitor yung system mo, if it's in the right track or yung system in place, ganun. Siguro isa rin ho yung kaya natanong ni Sir Basil. Opo. Baka experience niya, ma'am, based sa experience niya na ang isang company na merong management system or sumusunod sa ISO standards ay mas magiging successful ba? Parang ganun po.
Okay, oo, naintindihan ko naman. Oo. Kasi kumbaga parang luma na ako sa safety and environmental management system. Tapos late na lang dumating yung ISO, parang mas tawag doon. Hindi. Pero yung company naman namin IMS certified. Hindi na ako mabobola ng ISO 14,000. Pero ISO certified kami.
Nice po.
Pero iba naman kasi yung alam mo kung ano yung nangyayari. Diba? Pero hindi naman ibig sabihin na na hindi ka magso-subscribe sa kanya kasi kami nga rin kami ISO 14001 certified.
Kaya nga yung mga nandito ngayon, ini-encourage namin mag-attend kayo ng FILSA, ng mga trainings namin. Marami tayong mga expert na pwede mag-share ng how they implement yung management system nila using ISO standards, no. Yun lang pong sasuggest ko. Opo. Salamat po, ma'am. Sige po, admin, kayo po.
Okay, mukhang nag-raise po ng hand si Sir Elmo. May additional info po ata siya. Yes po.
Oh, yes, ma'am. So, yung yung mga management system like ISO, dito sa Pilipinas hindi naman po siya required. I mean, it's still a voluntary standard. May mga countries kasi na required by law na talagang maging ISO certified sila. Tama dun si ma'am na yung ISO is just a system of doing things eh. So, naka-structuralize lang doon kung anong gagawin mo. But it does not say na kung wala kang system na ginagamit or you are not using ISO, hindi ka magiging excellent yung performance. Well, depende lang talaga how you implement a system po. If true to the words na you want to protect the environment and reduce injuries and reduce accident, so that's good. But then if kumuha ka lang ng ISO just to get certification and to have a good reputation and to have a good profile, I think that is not the purpose of the ISO. It is really the reduction of injury and accidents and the protection of the environment. So actually may mga companies naman na not necessarily ISO yung ginagamit nilang standard like ISRS, medyo maduma na yung sistema na yun, but it's still a system and it has several similarities with the ISO. Although si ISO 45,000 for the safety is more advanced dahil risk-based na siya and there's a lot of requirement for the leadership, and so ganun lang. So whichever system you use, yun lang talaga. Let's look at I mean very important to look at the intended outcome na gusto mong mangyari sa performance mo, kung sa environment o sa safety. Not necessarily na gusto mo lang maging certified just for the purpose of a paper, but more on the spirit on implementing and getting into the real outcome of whether environment or safety or quality.
Sir Delphin, sige po. Meron po ang papa, Sir Delphin. Basta sir, yung NBI, huwag nyo nabanggitin. Joke lang.
Ma'am, I have the book of ISO 14 series when I took this sa DTI. May sinabi ni Doktora, the intended outcome of environmental management system include, number 1, enhancement of environmental performance. Number 2, fulfillment of compliance obligation. Number 3, achievement of environmental objectives. So kahit ano yung ating outcome, basta we will follow the environmental management system, may impact, ma'am. Ma'am, sabi ng professor ko sa ISO 14, si engineer, sabi niya, pag ang isang company ISO member, malaking impact mo sa customer. Compared mo sa walang ISO. I give you the example, ma'am. I'm now working sa security agency. Pagka ikaw agency, hindi ka makakakuha ng isang kliyente na ISO. Ang gusto nila yung agency dapat ISO certified. Pag hindi ka ISO, pipitsugin kang security agency, ma'am. So I learned that from ISO. Yung mga kliyente, mga international, kukuha ng agency na ISO certified, quality management system, environmental management. Kaya ang laking impact sa customer, ma'am eh. Malaking hatak, ma'am, pag ISO member ka, ma'am, certified ka.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Totoo naman po yan. Okay po. Naniniwala naman po ako sa ISO pero marami lang akong yung matagal na po yung kasi ang experience ko sa sa environmental management system. Pero maganda po talagang ISO 14001.
Hindi lang siguro familiar si ma'am na na i-implement yun kasi there are times na na-implement mo na sa organization mo pero yun pala yun din yung requirements. Opo.
Sir, kami ISO certified kaya na sinusunod namin yung requirements ng ISO 14001. Pero it's just that parang bago pa na implement yung ISO standards, parang matagal na kaming nag-environmental management sa NAPOCOR. Kasi po ang history po ng environmental management group sa NAPOCOR, 'di ba po natayo po yung nuclear power plant dati. Tapos sa sobrang, 'di ba, ang nuclear power plant sobrang critical siya dahil sa danger or sa risk na magkaroon ng radiation leak, 'di po ba? So at that time, yung NAPOCOR lang po yung merong in-house na environmental group, parang first in the Philippines. Kumbaga, yung mga ibang kumpanya, at that time, wala naman silang environmental group. Tapos dahil na-mothball yung nuclear power plant, lahat ng mga environmental people sa Bataan Nuclear Power Plant noong 1986 nalipat sa head office ng National Power Corporation. Pero ako 1991 na lang ako pumasok, pero alam ko yung history ng mga lumang staff sa environmental management group namin kung saan sila galing. Tapos dahil marami namang budget ang NAPOCOR, lahat ng ng mga ideal procedures na pwedeng gawin ng isang environmental management group na ibibigay naman yung may budget, so nagagawa namin lahat ng gusto naming gawin. So tapos yung parang history na to ng environmental management sa mga iba't ibang entities. So tapos pumasok yung ISO 14001. So kaya naintindihan ko po yung nila, yung objective naman nila. So, we are talking. Actually, we are talking only this EMS, no? Meron pa nga energy management system, di ba? Lalo na ngayon, po. Anyway, at least klaro po, napakaganda ho ng ating mga discussion at marami tayong natutunan.